Well, I recommend you try it with the skew chisel. Works very well, takes a lot of practice, but once you get good with it, you almost won't need to use any sandpaper at all. So give that a shot. Let me know how it goes. Okay, thanks. I'll give it a try. Hi there. I got an email a little while ago from Gary, and I've been meaning to get around to this. Sorry it's taken so long, Gary. It's been over a month, I believe. But Gary wanted to know how to use a floating disc in segmented turnings. Apparently the videos I've done up till now haven't given enough detail on the floating disc itself. So today I'm just going to do a quick video on just the floating disc. So stick around for a second, let me get something to show you some examples, and I'll be right back. Now the first question you might ask is why? Why would you put a floating disc in the bottom? Well, because it's very difficult, for me it's impossible, to make a segmented bottom where all the segments come together at a point and not have any light leaking through. Never going to use it for liquid, but just the same, just having that light leak through is not good enough for me. Now when I started doing them, I found that to be the case, so I started drilling a hole in the center and putting a plug in. This one didn't work out too bad. I don't see any light leaking through this one at all. But then if I go to this one, I'm quite sure you should be able to see some light leaking through there. And then with this one, well, this one's really bad. I'm pretty sure you're going to see some light leaking around both the rings. In this one, I used a segmented ring inside the segmented ring and then a solid plug in the bottom. It just did not work out very well at all. And another thing, if you look at the bottom, you can see the color of the Paduke ring. That's because it's sitting on its bottom all the time, no light gets to it. But when you look on the inside, it's turned dark brown. One of my pet peeves about some of the exotic woods is that happens. So that's why I want to use this floating disc. Now let me get the pieces and I'll show you just how it's going to go together. Only the bottom two segmented rings will be impacted by the floating disc. Now I've got the bottom segmented ring glued up and then glued onto a sacrificial wood block. I've got the glue block attached to the chuck with a woodworm screw. My intention will be to create a recess the same depth as the thickness of this disc and very slightly larger than the diameter. Then I'm going to put a spot of glue on each side in line with the grain. That'll be glued down in there on just those two spots, and that will allow the floating disc to expand and contract across the grain, where it does most of its expansion and contraction. With the grain, it doesn't do very much at all. Now when that is in there and it's flush, I'll glue the next ring on, and I'll only glue outside of the floating disc. I don't want any glue to touch the disc and glue it to this because that's going to defeat the purpose. So if you want to stick around and see how this is done, if the explanation was not enough, I'm going to show you right now. The disc that I'm going to put in here is 3 7/8 of an inch in diameter. The opening as it sits right now is 1 3/4. Now I want to go 1/16 of an inch opening all around the outside of this disc. So I need to add 1/8 of an inch, making it a 4-inch opening that I want. Now taking the 1 3/4 from that 4 inches gives me 2 1/4. So I need to come out from the outside of that opening 1 1/8, because it'll be 1 1/8 on each side, or that 2 1/4, which should give me the 4 inches. So there's my 1 1/8. Let me just draw this circle. When I measure that, I do have the 4 inches. So now I'm going to use a parting tool to bring this down the thickness of this disc. And the disc is 15 64ths of an inch, just a little less than 1/4 of an inch. So I'll probably go down 1/4 of an inch glue this in, and then I'll use a sanding block to level this down to the disc. I have a small block of wood that's straight along the edge. After I have the recess partially done, I can put it inside there and I'll be able to tell whether or not the inside of the recess is straight. I don't want it to have any ripples in if it's not necessary. So now I'm going to use the parting tool, and I have a line I drew with a black felt marker 1/4 of an inch from the end, just to give me a bit of a guide when I'm close to that depth. I think that's the depth I want. Now the camera angle won't likely pick this up, but I can tell that it's deeper around the outside than it is toward the center, so I'm just going to try to straighten that out a little bit. I think that's real good. Quite happy with that. And the depth is just about perfect. So I'm going to now glue this in, putting glue on those two spots on the ends of the grain. Now I'm going to use a toothpick just to put a spot of glue here and here at the end of the grain. I do not want to overdo this. It's just to hold it well enough that I can get the next ring glued on there without this moving around. Now I'll put this piece of dowel in here, and I'll use the tail stalk to snug it up and keep it in place. I'm going to give that some time to dry. Seems to be held in there well, and then I'll be back. The glue has had lots of time to dry now, and when I hold a straight edge across here, I can see there is a gap. The surface of the floating disc is lower than that of the ring surrounding it, and that's what I want. It's a lot quicker and easier to sand this surface down than to do that whole disc. So now I'm going to sand that using 80 grit to start, and then to finish it I'll turn it around and use the 100 grit sandpaper on there. I'm going to fire up the dust collector. I'll mute the sound a bit so it's not bothering you. And that's all I need to do there. Now I'm going to take this and glue the other ring on. It's my intention to put glue, a thin bead of glue, just on the segmented ring to try to make sure that none of it goes onto the floating disc. Then I'll turn this over and just glue it down onto this other ring. Normally, I like to let the glue set for about an hour. It's plenty. But because there is such a small bead of glue on this, I let it set for 2 hours just to make sure it's set. Now when I do something like this, I always do a hand drawing. I do have a computer program for it, but I just enjoy doing it this way. And one of the things I like to make note of is the size of things. For instance, inside at the bottom of this ring, I want it to be 3.5 inches. So I've made this little block, and the diagonal measurement is 3.5. So once I can get it inside there and sitting right on the floating disc, I'll know I have that 3.5 inches. I also know that I want the inside on the top to be at 5 1/4, which is this line, and the outside to be at 5 1/2, which is this line. So now I'm going to turn that and give you a quick look at that. Well, my apologies, I misspoke there. These measurements are 4 3/4 on the inside and 5 1/4 on the outside. And that's right where I want to be. I'm going to make a couple of grooves in here to disguise these little notches that I accidentally made. But it'll come out looking all right. I'm just going to sand this, and that's all I want to show today. Well, that turned out all right. I was a little exasperated with myself when I got those couple of little too deep cuts there. But I was in a hurry, didn't want to waste your time, and I went at it a little faster than I usually do. Turns out sometimes these design opportunities are a good thing. I turned those into a couple of beads, put on some Minwax wipe-on poly, and I'm quite pleased with it. I'll take a couple of pictures for it. If I can get a good one, I'll stick it up here for you to see. Anyway, I don't usually do requests. I just kind of like to turn what I want to turn, build what I want to build, but Gary needed some help, and I hope this helps you out, Gary. If it helps anyone else out, I'm really pleased. So thank you for joining me. If I ever finish this thing, I'll set up a video of that and show you what it turned out like. In the meantime, have a great day in your shop. Be safe. Thanks for joining me. Come back again. Don't forget to subscribe, and you take care now. Bye-bye.